Section 1. Silent signals begin. I was 62 when I first felt it. Not pain, not panic, just something different. It started with a strange kind of tiredness. Not the usual I didn't sleep well fatigue, but a bone-deep weariness that settled into my chest and shoulders after a walk I used to breeze through. I remember thinking, maybe I'm just getting older. Maybe this is what slowing down feels like. But deep down I knew something was off. That spring I was visiting my daughter in Oregon. She lives near a park with wide trails and beautiful pine trees. We'd walk every morning, chatting about life, enjoying the air. I loved those mornings. But one day I had to stop halfway. My legs felt heavy. My chest was tight. Not painful, just tight. Like someone had wrapped a band around it and slowly started pulling. I brushed it off. It's just the hill, I told her. I haven't exercised in a while. But inside I was rattled. I noticed something else too. I was getting short of breath doing things that used to be second nature. Climbing stairs, lifting groceries, even bending down to tie my shoes. And it wasn't just physical. There was a kind of fog in my head. My thinking felt slower, like I was constantly a step behind. But I still didn't say anything. I told myself it was probably just aging, stress, or poor sleep. A week later, I was watering my garden, and suddenly I felt dizzy. The world tilted for a second, just a second, but it was enough to make me grab onto the edge of the fence. Again, no pain, no sharp warning, just a strange sensation that I wasn't in control. Looking back now, I realize how many little signs I dismissed. I thought heart attacks only came with dramatic symptoms, crushing chest pain, clutching your chest, collapsing in public. But for many seniors like me, the warning signs are subtle, creeping, and easily mistaken for ordinary aging. It wasn't until I had lunch with a neighbor, Harold, that I started to reconsider. He's a retired paramedic. I told him I'd been feeling off, just casually over sandwiches and iced tea. He looked at me and said something I'll never forget. That's exactly how my brother felt before his heart attack. No pain, just tired, foggy, breathless. You need to get checked, friend. His words stuck with me. That night, I went online and looked up early signs of heart disease in seniors. What I read shocked me. Nearly every symptom I was feeling, fatigue, tightness, shortness of breath, dizziness, was on the list. What hit me the hardest was a line that read, "Older adults may not experience the classic Hollywood heart attack symptoms. Their warning signs can be mild and develop over time." I sat back, heart pounding. Not from exertion this time, but from realization. I had been ignoring my body, trusting that what I felt was harmless, trusting that aging alone could explain my decline. Here's what I wish someone had told me clearly and loudly. Heart disease doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. And the older you get, the easier it is to miss the message. I decided then and there to listen more carefully. The next day I scheduled a checkup. I hadn't seen my doctor in over a year. When I went in, I didn't even start with symptoms. I just said, "Something feels off. I'm tired all the time. My chest feels tight, and I get winded doing normal things." My doctor didn't dismiss me. He nodded, took a breath, and said, "I'm glad you came in." That one sentence made me feel less crazy, less weak, and less alone. He ordered a few tests, nothing invasive, just a blood pressure reading, a basic EKG, and a blood panel. He also asked about my family history and whether I'd been under stress. That part surprised me. I hadn't realized stress was linked to heart problems in seniors. As I left the clinic, I felt a mix of fear and relief. Fear that I might really be dealing with heart disease. Relief that I had finally stopped ignoring the signs. That afternoon, I sat on my porch, watching the clouds drift past, and I promised myself something. If my heart was asking for help, I'd listen this time. Because getting older doesn't mean giving up strength. It doesn't mean accepting decline without a fight. And it certainly doesn't mean ignoring the signals your body sends just because they don't look like what you expected. It turns out, the earlier you catch heart disease, the more you can do to fight it. And for seniors like us, awareness is the first and most powerful step. Section 2. The overlooked symptoms. After that doctor's visit, I started noticing even more little things. Symptoms I had brushed aside for months, maybe years. It was almost like once I stopped ignoring my body, it started telling me even more. And not in loud ways, just quiet, consistent whispers. I remember standing at the kitchen sink one morning, scrubbing a pan, and suddenly I felt this strange discomfort in my jaw. It wasn't pain exactly, more like a pressure that radiated from my ear down to my chin. It passed within minutes. If I hadn't read that jaw pain can be a symptom of heart issues, especially in older adults, I would have dismissed it completely. But there it was, another piece of the puzzle. Then came the swelling. My feet and ankles would puff up by evening. I'd have to loosen the straps on my sandals or sit with my legs propped up to find relief. I assumed it was because I'd been standing too long or maybe too much salt in my lunch. But no, my doctor later explained that edema, or fluid retention, is often a sign of the heart not pumping efficiently. It can mean early heart failure. What really got my attention, though, was when I started waking up at night, out of breath. I'd be lying flat, and suddenly I'd feel like I couldn't take a deep breath. I'd sit up, sometimes even walk around the house at 2 a.m., just trying to breathe normally again. That feeling of panic in the dark, it's hard to explain. And yet, I still didn't realize it might be related to my heart. You see, when we think of heart problems, we expect one dramatic event. But in reality, for seniors, it's a buildup of clues, like a slow leak instead of a burst pipe. Here are some overlooked warning signs I wish I had recognized sooner. Unusual fatigue even after light activity. Mild chest discomfort, not sharp pain, that comes and goes. Shortness of breath while lying down or during simple tasks. Swelling in ankles, feet, or legs by late afternoon. Dizziness or lightheadedness when standing up. Jaw, neck, or shoulder tightness. Sudden sweating for no reason at all. Irregular heartbeats that feel like fluttering or skipping. The scariest part? Each of these could be easy to explain away. I must have twisted my back. I'm just dehydrated. Maybe it's anxiety or age. But one day I told myself, what if I stopped justifying everything? What if I take each new symptom seriously until proven otherwise? That shift in thinking made a huge difference. I started writing symptoms down. Anytime I felt dizzy or noticed swelling or had strange aches, I made a note. I brought that list with me to my follow-up appointment, and my doctor thanked me. He said most seniors wait too long or underreport symptoms out of fear, pride, or confusion, but a log like that could mean the difference between early detection and a dangerous emergency. He explained something else too. Heart disease doesn't always affect just the heart. It disrupts how oxygen and nutrients reach every part of the body. That's why symptoms can appear anywhere. Your legs, your lungs, even your mind. He told me about a patient, another senior, who had been treated for anxiety for months. Turns out his racing heart and shallow breathing were actually early signs of atrial fibrillation, a heart rhythm disorder. Once treated properly, his symptoms disappeared. Hearing that made me realize how easy it is to get misdiagnosed, or to misdiagnose ourselves. Another overlooked sign I learned about? Confusion or forgetfulness. I always thought my recent brain fog was just aging, but reduced blood flow from the heart can mean less oxygen reaching the brain. It doesn't mean dementia. It might just mean your heart isn't pumping efficiently. So many of us fall into the trap of thinking, well, I'm just getting old. But aging isn't a disease, and it's not an excuse to ignore real symptoms that signal something deeper. Let me be clear. None of these signs are a guarantee that you have heart disease, but they're flags worth raising. And especially when 2 or 3 show up at once, that's your body waving a red banner. I think back to my own turning point. I had spent nearly 6 months living with swelling, breathlessness, and jaw discomfort, all while telling myself it was normal. I even told friends, my body's just not what it used to be. And while that may be true, it doesn't mean we shouldn't investigate what's going on beneath the surface. We don't have to panic, but we do need to pay attention. My doctor later told me something I now repeat to friends and family. Your body whispers before it screams. Don't wait for the scream. These days, I make it a point to talk openly about symptoms with my peers, at church, at the senior center, even in line at the grocery store. Because heart disease doesn't always strike with a bang. Sometimes it tiptoes in, and if we're not careful, we won't hear it coming. Section 3, when it's not just getting older. I remember saying those words out loud, almost defensively. Maybe it's just old age. Things don't work the same after 60. It was during a casual conversation with my son, who had come by to check in. I just described how I'd been getting tired faster, having trouble walking up a small hill near the house, and occasionally feeling a strange flutter in my chest. I could see the concern in his eyes, but I brushed it off. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to overreact. And deep down, I truly believed what I was saying. But here's what I didn't understand at the time. There's a dangerous line between normal aging and signs of heart disease, and most of us cross it without realizing. Yes, getting older does come with changes. We lose some muscle, our joints ache a little more, we get winded faster. But when those symptoms start to interfere with your daily life, or come with other signs like swelling, shortness of breath, or irregular heartbeat, they're not just age-related, they're warning signs. The truth hit me during a follow-up appointment when my doctor said, age isn't a diagnosis, it's a context. Don't let it explain away real symptoms. I was quiet after that, because deep down I knew I had been minimizing things for months, maybe even years. Take, for instance, how I'd stopped walking to the store like I used to, not because I didn't have time, but because I didn't feel up to it. I told myself it was laziness, but in reality my energy levels had dropped. My legs felt heavier, my heart raced more than it should. Yet I never thought to connect it to something like cardiomyopathy or subtle heart muscle weakness. I chalked up forgetfulness to senior moments, not realizing that reduced oxygen from poor circulation can cloud the brain. I told myself needing longer naps was just me slowing down, not that my heart wasn't pumping efficiently. And let's not forget the emotional toll. Heart problems don't just show up in the body, they can affect your mood too. In the months before my diagnosis, I felt unusually anxious, restless. I had this low-level unease, like I was constantly on edge but couldn't say why. At the time, I thought maybe it was loneliness or post-retirement blues, but looking back, it was my body's response to internal stress, oxygen deprivation, elevated heart rate, and nervous system overactivity. Many seniors, especially those living alone, experience this. We dismiss symptoms because we're afraid of what they might mean, or we've seen others our age suffer worse and figure we should just be grateful we're doing okay. But here's the thing. Catching heart problems early doesn't just save your life. It can give you back your energy, your clarity, and your freedom. I'll never forget talking to Martha, a woman from my neighborhood who's in her late 70s. She had been feeling exhausted, struggling to walk to the mailbox, and even skipping meals because she felt too tired to cook. Everyone told her she was just aging. Her kids bought her a walker, but one day her daughter insisted she see a cardiologist. Turns out she had a heart valve issue that had been worsening for years, silently. She had surgery. It wasn't easy, but within a few months she was walking circles around the block, smiling again, energized. Her story hit me hard because it could have been me, and it made me think, how many people are losing quality of life simply because they've accepted symptoms as normal? The hardest part for me wasn't the diagnosis. It was realizing I had waited so long, out of fear, denial, and pride. It's tough to admit something might be wrong, especially when you've always been the strong one in your family. But being proactive about your heart isn't weakness. It's wisdom, especially after 60, when the risk of heart disease skyrockets. If you're experiencing breathlessness that wasn't there before, constant fatigue despite good sleep, swelling in the feet, ankles, or stomach, chest discomfort, even mild, lightheadedness or dizzy spells, irregular heartbeat or fluttering, poor appetite or sudden weight changes, then it's time to stop blaming just age and start asking deeper questions. There's a saying I read once, old age is not a disease, but ignoring it can be. Now that I've been through it, I talk to others in my community, at the senior center, at church, even over phone calls. I ask how they've been feeling, not just fine, but really feeling. And so many of them open up about strange symptoms they've ignored. I tell them what my doctor told me. The earlier you identify heart trouble, the more we can do to fix it. Waiting never helps. Listening does. And if that message helps just one person avoid the slow decline I faced, then sharing my story is worth it. Because heart health isn't just about staying alive. It's about staying active, clear-minded, and fully present with the people you love. Section 4, what tests revealed? When I finally got the call from my doctor's office, my hands trembled a little as I picked up the phone. I'd gone in for a basic checkup, mentioned my symptoms, and he'd run some tests, blood work, an EKG, and scheduled a stress test just to be cautious. I had told myself it was routine, that I was just being thorough. But when I heard the nurse say, the doctor would like to see you to discuss the results, My stomach dropped. I've lived long enough to know that when they want you to come in to talk, something's up. The next day I sat across from my doctor as he opened his laptop and said gently, "I'm glad you came in when you did." He started with the EKG results. It showed some irregularities. Nothing life-threatening, but definitely not what he wanted to see in someone my age who had been otherwise active. "You have signs of left ventricular hypertrophy," he explained. I blinked, unsure what that meant. "It means the muscle wall of your heart's left ventricle has thickened. That's usually your heart's response to working too hard, often due to high blood pressure or other stressors." I sat there absorbing it slowly. It wasn't a heart attack, but it wasn't nothing either. He continued, "Your blood tests also show elevated BNP levels, which suggest your heart may not be pumping efficiently. It's consistent with early-stage heart failure." That word, failure, landed hard. I felt a rush of fear, shame, and confusion all at once. I thought, how can my heart be failing if I'm still walking, still cooking, still living my life? But he explained something that made everything click. Heart failure doesn't mean your heart stops. It means it's not pumping as effectively as it should. And in seniors, it often progresses slowly, subtly. That's why early detection matters so much. He also ordered an echocardiogram, which showed mild fluid retention around the heart. Not alarming yet, but another signal. That's when I began to piece it all together. The swelling in my ankles, the breathlessness at night, the strange pressure in my jaw. All connected. More tests followed over the coming weeks. A nuclear stress test to see how my heart performed under pressure. A Holter monitor to track irregular beats over 48 hours. Even a sleep study, because sleep apnea can worsen heart function without you knowing. Each result added a layer to the story. I didn't have just one issue. I had a network of early warning signs. My blood pressure had crept up over the years. I had borderline cholesterol. I wasn't diabetic, but my fasting glucose was higher than ideal. My body had been sounding the alarm for a while, but here's the part that surprised me most. I wasn't beyond help. Because we caught it early, the cardiologist laid out a plan. Clear, manageable steps. No dramatic surgery. No overnight hospital stays. Just focused changes. A new medication to support heart function and reduce strain. Light daily exercise to strengthen my heart gently. A low-sodium diet to manage fluid retention. Weight tracking every morning. A regular check-in every 3 months. And perhaps most importantly, a strong emphasis on listening to my body. If my weight went up 2 pounds overnight, that was a red flag for fluid buildup. If I noticed swelling or breathlessness increasing, I had a number to call right away. It was empowering, really. I went from fearing my diagnosis to feeling in control of it. I also had a long talk with a cardiac nurse who explained something I'll never forget. Your heart's been serving you faithfully for over 60 years. This is your chance to serve it back. That changed how I looked at everything. This wasn't punishment, it was partnership. Me and my heart moving forward together with more awareness, more patience, and more care. I started walking again, but with intention. Not for speed, but for consistency. 20 minutes a day, just around the neighborhood. I added more leafy greens and fewer processed foods. I swapped salt for herbs and began eating more potassium-rich foods like bananas and sweet potatoes. Nothing extreme, just steady, doable changes. And I started sleeping better. Not just because of the medication, but because the fear was replaced by a plan. I shared everything with my daughter and son. They were proud and relieved. It sparked a shift in them too. They both scheduled checkups. My son even started tracking his blood pressure at home. One diagnosis, a ripple effect. The best part? Within 2 months, I felt better. The heaviness in my legs eased. The dizziness faded. I had more energy, not the wild kind of energy I had in my 30s, but something even better. Steady, reliable strength. And that, my friend, is what early intervention can give you. Not just more years, but better ones. If you're reading this and thinking, maybe I should get checked, don't wait. Don't let fear keep you from the truth. Because knowing your heart's condition is the first step to healing it. Section 5, taking back control after 60. After all the doctor visits, tests, and adjustments to my lifestyle, something unexpected happened. I didn't just start feeling physically better. I felt stronger emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I no longer felt like a passive passenger in my health journey. I was back in the driver's seat. You see, for so long, I had believed that after 60, things would just keep going downhill. That aches and fatigue were just part of getting older. That slowing down meant I had to give up my independence little by little. But that belief is a dangerous myth. What I've learned is this: it's never too late to take back control. You can reshape your health story at any point in your life, even after 60, 70, or beyond. You don't need to be a marathon runner or live off kale smoothies. You just need to listen, act, and stay consistent. One of the most empowering things I did was create a simple daily heart routine. It wasn't complicated, and it didn't cost a dime. It looked like this. Morning weight check. If I gained more than 2 pounds overnight, I noted it. Hydration. I started drinking a full glass of water with lemon as soon as I woke up. Gentle movement. Even if it was just marching in place for 5 minutes, I moved. Mindful meals. I began tracking sodium and prioritizing potassium and fiber. Evening wind down. I stopped screens an hour before bed and focused on sleep quality. It wasn't perfect, but over time, it built momentum. And momentum is what most seniors need, not perfection. A neighbor of mine, Ron, inspired me too. He's 73, had a heart attack 5 years ago, and now walks 3 miles every morning before sunrise. Not because a doctor told him to, but because he feels alive when he does it. He says, "My heart's been through war, but I refuse to let it give up now." Ron and I started walking together on Saturdays. Not fast, not far, but together. And in those conversations, we kept coming back to the same truth. Your mindset is your strongest muscle. You can either use it to lift yourself or let it weigh you down. And here's something else I want to share. Something I didn't know until recently. Your heart can improve. Yes, even in your 60s and 70s. With the right changes, your heart's efficiency can get better. Your risk factors can shrink. Your oxygen flow can improve. Your quality of life can rise. I saw it in my own numbers. After 6 months of changes, my blood pressure dropped. My BNP levels, those markers of heart failure, went down. I was breathing easier, sleeping better, feeling clearer. Was it hard at first? Absolutely. But was it worth it? 1,000 times yes. Now I talk to other seniors about heart health the way I wish someone had talked to me. Direct, honest, hopeful. I say, don't wait for chest pain. Don't wait until you can't climb the stairs. Your body is whispering. Start listening now. And I always tell people to ask better questions during their checkups. Are my symptoms normal for my age? Should we check for early signs of heart failure? Could this fatigue or swelling be related to circulation? Am I at risk for AFib or valve problems? Because the more curious you are, the safer you are. In a way, this journey gave me a second chance, not just at life, but at living it well. I began to prioritize joy again. I started playing with my grandkids on the floor, knowing I could get back up. I cooked more heart-healthy meals for my friends. I even joined a beginner yoga class for seniors and laughed my way through every awkward pose. But most importantly, I stopped being afraid of my body. I started partnering with it. And now, every time I feel my heart beating strong, I thank it for staying with me, for fighting when I didn't know it needed to, for giving me the clarity to act before it was too late. To anyone out there reading this, maybe you've been ignoring the signs. Maybe you've brushed off that fatigue, that swelling, that breathlessness. Maybe you've told yourself, it's just age. But please pause, ask yourself, what if it's not just age? What if it's your heart asking for help? And what if the moment you choose to listen is the moment your healing begins? Because heart disease isn't inevitable, and weakness isn't your destiny. You still have choices, you still have time, you still have power. Take that first step. Talk to your doctor. Change one small thing today. Your heart will thank you tomorrow.